Hi. I'm very glad to be in this space with you all. And I do want to start by a disclaimer that I'm doing this presentation from an airport, so there might be some background noises, which I apologize about. But once again, really, really glad to be here in this space with great minds and people who do care about our present and our future. I will be presenting as an African, as a nurse, as well as a mother. Much gratitude to the team that has put this event together. Thank you to Nashi, a colleague and a special brethren that I have worked together with. So my goals really, or my goal is looking at bringing planetary health home to Africa, where I was born and raised. And my very personal inspiration to why I engage in this conversation is two children that I've been fortunate to raise that call me mother. And that is Fathili, who's 11, and Rehema, who's 8. Thinking about them and by extension, our children, our African children, but also our global children, because they're all in this with us. We're all in this with them together. So that's my inspiration. I want to touch a little bit on my impressions from the last year's African COP that was held in Egypt. And COP stands for United Nations. Basically, it's the United Nations Climate Change Conference. And just say that it was a beautiful thing to have COP be held in Africa, because it created space and a place and brought it closer to home for a lot of Africans to attend. In which case, had it been elsewhere, they would not have been able to attend. But I also thought about the many people that were missing at that table. And it also led me to think deeper about the importance of building coalitions and networks with a purpose, bringing in conversations about justice and equity, and truly bringing those who have been affected the most to this conversation. As you see, there's a picture of a bird. We call that bird Hummer, or our children call that bird Hummer. And they sent us with that bird so that we would remember the reason why we went to COP. It was for them. It was to represent them as little children, and also the most marginalized. And so it's these conversations that we must think about, these people who cannot speak for themselves sometimes, that we must think about, and also remember to think about how we can bring them or make space for them in these conversations. So from a nursing perspective, looking at climate change and the effects that it had on our lives as humans, I just think about the importance of ensuring that there's proper training, because there are many different changes that even the healthcare practitioners are yet to learn, that are learning at this point. Climate change is a phenomenon that is challenging many great minds also. And so it's very important to ensure that there's the training, practice, and systems coming together at an interdisciplinary level and thinking about collaboration. And this is where I really appreciate the conversations brought forth by Planetary Health and even One Health, and looking at just how core these conversations are and how we must work together. So it is thinking about the importance of contextualizing, translating, and grounding these concepts in the African principles, the African understanding, and the African worldview. It is also so important to remember that because we're not talking just about the world and the effects that climate change has on us, the adults, we must remember that this is an intergenerational conversation, and we must have intergenerational solutions to these climate challenges. And that what that means is we must have everybody at this table, both young all the way to old, and also remembering that the old wisdom, indigenous wisdom, traditional knowledge has been there, and that is how the people that came before us had been able to live in harmony with the earth, with our planet, with the animals, with the environment. This is what we must remember, and we must do our best to rescue, to revive, and to restore this knowledge for ourselves, but most especially for our children and future generations. So again, centering our youth. This is a beautiful picture of those two children that I talked about earlier. And they always help me remember to center them, both verbally, they will come and remind me, and also just remembering in my mind that it's for them that we're doing this for the most part, and remembering to have them as part of the conversation is so important. They have so much to share, but it's also their future we're talking about. So how can we have conversations about someone and not have them at the center of that conversation? So a coffee is grounded in African roots. It's just wanting to share that wisdom that has been there for ages. So a coffee in general, which I'm president of, stands for Africa Community of Planetary Partners for Health and Environment. And so again, thinking about centering our communities as we talk about our health and how it's connected to the environment. So the potential next steps that I see is finding ways that we can partner in these discussions as we all would agree. And so one invitation that I would like to make is about Earth Day that's coming up very soon. It's going to be on the 22nd of April. And this is where, as a coffee, we're looking at connecting communities for children and climate. That is going to be our agenda, and the children that will be leading this conversation are children at secondary school, female secondary school, and they will lead the communities to work on environmental stewardship, planting trees and cleaning the environment, and also offering conversations and learnings about our environment or conservation. And then there's also another conference that's coming up that will be in Mombasa, Kenya. And this is collaboration between the Kenya Pediatric Association and the International Society of Social Pediatrics. And this is basically another conversation about children, bringing the advocates for children and how to approach the climate change question, but also bringing in the children as well to be part of this conversation, children and youth. And so if you want to know more about this, please do feel free to reach out to me or to the Coffee community on this email address, wakigera@gmail.com, as well as coffee@gmail.com. And we can talk more about how we can partner. But most of all, I am very thankful to be a part of this conversation, looking forward to learning from you all, and looking forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you.